Hello and welcome to this training session on the provincial benefits available for eligible older adults in BC. Before we begin, we would like to, on behalf of the Navigation and Peer Support Team and 411 Senior Centre, acknowledge with deep respect and gratitude that we live, play, work, and collaborate on the unceded territories of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam Nations in BC. The first program we are going to be looking at today is the Shelter Aid for Elderly Renters, also known as SAFER. This program is run by BC Housing, operates in BC, and makes rents affordable for seniors with low to moderate incomes. As of the latest updates, SAFER serves approximately 22,000 seniors across the province. SAFER provides monthly cash payments to subsidize rent for eligible BC residents who are 60 plus and pay rent in their homes. The SAFER program is currently making some improvements that will make 4,800 more seniors eligible for the program. These changes come amidst rising living costs and the housing crisis, which particularly affects seniors with low or fixed incomes. Up until April of 2025, the maximum rent used to calculate the SAFER subsidy was $931. This has been raised to $1,150 per month. This means if your rent is higher than $1,150 per month, you can still qualify, but your subsidy will be based on a maximum of $1,150, not the full amount of your rent. Additionally, effective April 2025, the gross monthly income must be under $40,000 a year, which is an increase from the previous $37,000 per year. Existing recipients will see an increase of approximately $110 per month, raising the average monthly rent subsidy to $310. Minimum benefit has also increased from $25 per month to $50 per month. So how do you get SAFER? The first step would be to determine if you are eligible. So to receive SAFER, you must meet all of the following eligibility requirements. Firstly, this is only available to individuals who are over the age of 60 or over the age of 60 and have lived in BC for the full 12 months preceding their application. You and your spouse, with whom you share a home, if you have a spouse, must meet the Canadian citizenship requirements. The following are eligible. So individuals with private sponsorship that has broken down, people who have applied for refugee status, individuals legally in Canada as permanent residents not under sponsorship, and Canadian citizens who are not under sponsorship. The final criteria is that you must be paying more than 30% of your gross monthly income towards rent. If you have a mobile home or trailer, you would still qualify. The cost of the pad rental where you park would be what your subsidy is calculated based on. So I just want to run over some of the SAFER exclusions. So you will not qualify for SAFER if you meet any of the following. If you are under the age of 60 or live in subsidized housing or a residential care facility funded by the Ministry of Health, if you live in cooperative housing and are a shareholder, if you or your family receive income assistance through the BC Employment and Assistance Act or the Employment and Assistance for Persons with Disabilities Act, if you or your spouse are in Canada under a private sponsorship agreement that is still in force, if you do not live in BC or you have not lived in BC for the full 12 months immediately preceding your application, if you do not meet the citizenship requirements that we just went over, or if your gross monthly household income exceeds the maximum allowable income. So, once you have determined that you are eligible, you can complete the SAFER application form. There are 3 ways to obtain this form. You can download a copy from BC Housing's website. You can request that an application form be sent to you by mail by completing an online request or calling BC Housing. Or finally, you can pick up a copy at any BC Housing office. So in the next slide, we're going to take a quick look at the BC Housing application form together. So here on this page, you can see that they outline the eligibility, and then you've got some basic applicant information to fill out about you and your spouse. Here is the consent for release of information from the CRA. So here you can consent to the CRA sharing income tax information with BC Housing. If you do not consent, you will have to submit your notice of assessment and income tax return along with your application. Then you will need to fill out your residency application information, household information, contact information, residential address, rent information, and income information as well. This page is a declaration and consent page, so you'll need to have that signed. This last page is where you can include your direct deposit information. And there is also a proof of rent landlord declaration section as well. This is not required if a tenancy agreement or a rent receipt has been included with the application form, but it's a great option if you don't have that. And then this last page is just a comprehensive checklist of everything that needs to be included in the application. And we will run all over that in the next slide as well. So, that being said, let's review the necessary supporting documents. So first you'll need to provide proof of income. The first part of that is providing tax information, and there are two ways that you can provide your tax information to BC Housing. The first is you can give consent to the CRA to release your information to BC Housing, and as we saw, that is simply a box to check on the application form. Alternatively, you can provide a copy of your notice of assessment and income tax return if you would rather not do that. If you have lost or misplaced the notice of assessment or tax return, don't worry, you can get these documents from the CRA. You can contact the CRA by phone and request a detailed notice of assessment. This is also known as the Option C printout, and request that it be sent to you. Or if you have access to your CRA My account, you can print that out, this document from there as well. The next thing you need to include in your proof of income is photocopies of any documents related to your gross monthly income. So this includes paychecks or pay stubs from the 3 most recent months, and that would show your gross pay and deductions. You'll also need to include bank statements showing direct deposits, T-slips, or any other income statements that you would have. If you or a spouse are newly working, then a letter from your employer stating your monthly or annual gross income would also be necessary. If your household income from last year is from self-employment, then you must provide a copy of a statement of income and expenses from last year's income tax return. And finally, if you have the BC Bus Pass, please include a copy of your T5007 slip, so this amount can be deducted from your annual income. Next, you will need to provide proof of age. However, if you are over 65 and receiving old age security, you do not need to do this. Otherwise, you will need to provide either a birth or baptismal certificate, a driver's license, or a passport. So only one of those documents. For proof of rent, you must include either your residential tenancy agreement, a notice of recent rent increase, a rent receipt, or the most recent rent check cleared by your bank. As mentioned in the application form, if you do not have these, the landlord can also sign the declaration on the application form. Lastly, you'll want to provide your banking information, so you can attach a void check to your application or complete the direct deposit request form in the Safer application on that one of those last pages that we saw. This can easily be done by just bringing this page to the bank and they'll know what to give you. So, once your application is complete and you've collected all of the necessary documentation, you can submit it in 3 ways. You can submit it online using BC Housing's online program upload form. You can also fax it or send it by mail. Once your application has been processed, you will receive a notification by mail. If you are eligible, your subsidy will start the month of your application, that month that your application is received. For example, if an application is received on July 29th, it will start the month of July. The SAFER subsidy is paid in arrears. In this case, July payment would be made at the end of the month. Additionally, if it takes a couple months to process the application, you will receive back payments from the time that it was submitted. So, yeah. If you cannot use direct deposit to receive the subsidy, please contact BC Housing by phone to discuss options. If at any point your banking information changes, you can let BC know by forwarding them a new void check or pre-authorized debit form completed by your bank. If you have a rent increase, please send a copy to BC Housing. Your file will be updated and, if applicable, your subsidy adjusted. Please note, if your rent is over the maximum allowable rent ceiling, you may not receive an increase to your subsidy. However, knowing the actual rent amount is very important for BC Housing. This way they can better understand the rental conditions as they review the SAFER program. And as we discussed, they have made increases to the rent ceiling in response to this, so it's good for them to have this information. If you are moving, you can get your rent subsidy transferred to your new address, but BC Housing will require that you forward by mail a copy of your tenancy agreement or other proof of tenancy and rent. And you will also need to inform BC Housing if your income changes, so they can adjust your SAFER subsidy if needed. This does not include cost of living increases to CPP and OAS, but anything else should be told to BC Housing. One thing to keep in mind is that BC Housing will send you a T5007 tax slip for your SAFER subsidy, and you must declare this on your annual income tax return. It's non-taxable income, but it still must be declared. For full details on the SAFER program, including eligibility requirements and how to apply, please visit BC Housing's website, or you can contact them by phone between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. on working days.